and welcome back to the 360 Perspective podcast with me, Trisha. It's been such a great joy putting together the past content. We've received so much support. And a big thank you to all of you who've subscribed to the channel, to all those who've shared. I've enjoyed just reading some of the feedback that you've been sending in terms of how helpful the content that we've been putting out has been to you. And we look forward to putting out more great content. And today I have a guest who's been here before, one of my really top guests that I love just having and talking through different episodes with, different topics with him, and his name is Jay. So he is a familiar face. Karibu sana, Jay.
Asante. It's always good to be here.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure, and we love just drawing from your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom. And in today's episode, we'll be talking about accountability. So there's that episode that I had with a friend of mine called Waikwa, where we're talking about friendships in your adulthood years.
Yeah.
And, there's something he talked about in that episode where he mentioned about, all of us have blind spots.
Yeah.
We have deaf spots and we have dumb spots.
Yeah.
And, he mentioned, just obviously blind spots are the areas in our lives, the weaknesses that we have that we don't see. And then the deaf spots are the things that people keep saying, keep mentioning, also a weakness, but you never hear.
Yeah.
You just never seem to get it. And then the dumb spots, ilo fala tu, kuno jinga tu, each one of us has, and you don't know that it either provokes other people or it annoys other people. The only way we can know about our blind spots, our deaf spots, and our dumb spots is through the friends around us.
Yeah, which by someone pointing it out.
Yes, by someone pointing out, which leads us to the topic of today, which is accountability.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, and I realize, once again, in this journey of adulting 101, it's like the older you grow, the lesser we see the importance of accountability.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Yes.
And I don't know, what are your thoughts about it? Because I see that a lot, like the older we get, the lesser we feel like we need any need for accountability in our lives.
It's the growth pattern, sort of. I would say for kids or for young people, when you're young, you're highly dependent on parents, on the system, you need someone to hold your hand crossing the road. When you're grown up, you can do it by yourself. When you're growing up, you need teachers to lead the way. You need parents to tell you how to do things. When you're grown up, you can do most of these things by yourself. When you're in college or after college, you need people to help you, maybe get a job, become better at your skill. But so the older you grow, the less dependent on others you become. So which means also, there are really no consequences if you don't do something that is a norm.
Yeah.
Because when you're young and you don't take a shower in the evening, your parents come and that's a problem.
Yeah.
When you're old, you decide whatever time you're going to shower.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can decide not to shower and none of us will ask you.
Yeah.
We'll just stay away from you, but we won't ask you.
There's no one will ask you.
Yes.
No one will ask you hard questions.
Yes. So it's the pattern of growing up is that the more older we become, the less dependent we are on other people.
Yeah.
And that's why you also will see older people tend to speak out their mind without thinking too much about what are my words
affecting other people.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And I've been wondering, first of all, before you even go to, are there any benefits of accountability? Is there any danger in living that kind of a life whereby no one holds you accountable, because after all, you're mature, you're an adult, you decide what you want in your life, you're no longer in the care of your parents.
Yes.
Is there any danger in living that kind of a way where you are not accountable to anyone?
When we say there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to distraction. Because most of the time what we think is right, or when we sort of separate ourselves and try to make our own decisions, we will most probably not make the right decision because we've separated ourselves. And actually, even apart from, because you can do it accidentally, but also you can do it as by design. So sometimes you will see someone who separates themselves by design so that they can do something that
It's
is not right. It's
intentional.
intentional. Yes. So there is that thing of, there's a way that seems right to a person, but in the end it leads to distraction. So it's dangerous. It is it's risky. It's a high risk maneuver. It's a high risk way of living.
Yeah.
Even the older you grow, I think being in a position where you can actually make your own decisions without consequences or repercussions or pushback from other people should actually make you now be more aware of wanting to be kept accountable. Because the probability of you now going all the way off on a tangent is really high.
Yeah. That's
Yes.
so true, because honestly, for me personally, I look at accountability, and today we're talking about accountability more for your personal life, you know,
Yes.
because accountability can be, you know, just different areas and aspects.
Yeah.
But for me personally, when I look at accountability in my personal life, I look at it as guardrails, you know, like having accountability is like having guardrails, you know,
Yes.
because from what you've just shared, when you don't have accountability, then it means you can be off the road
Yeah.
completely, and you're clueless about it.
Yes.
You know, because then you don't have those people who will tell you about your blind spots.
Yes.
You know, for example, maybe you're one person who you're just not teachable. You know, you cannot be told, and everything that you say it's final.
Yeah.
You know, it's the finality, you know. But you don't have people around you who can call that out and just ask you, hey, you know, we've noticed this and that. Or,
Yeah.
you know, when you're around you, we notice that you never take time to, you know, hear us out. No one can tell you about your dumb spots,
Yeah.
you know, the stupid things that you keep doing, you know, but you're not even aware about it.
Yes.
Or, you know, your deaf spots, you know, the things that everyone keeps telling you, but you just can't hear, especially when you don't have that accountability, somebody to hold you accountable.
Yes.
And so I think that now leads us to that other question of, are there any benefits to having like people that you're accountable to for your personal lives, and what are some of these benefits really?
So first of all, in reducing risk, there's need to have people to point out things for you, in terms of protecting yourself, in terms of not leading yourself into bad situations, which you might not think are bad for you. Because I mean, we usually say when you're not playing the game, you see it better. The spectators usually see the game better. So when you're in the game, you need someone out there to direct you, like that side, the way you're going, it might not be the best decision. So obviously, first, to protect you, there is that need for accountability. Then also for prosperity. Because you see, accountability is not just, and I know there has been that misconception of accountability is only for bad things, as in it's only to keep ourselves out of danger, to keep ourselves from doing, but it's also to help us do
Achieve
good
our
things,
goals.
achieve better things, achieve bigger things, achieve, yes.
Yeah.
So for those two, there are those two perspectives of keeping you out of danger and also enabling you to pursue big things, which are, or rather pursue big things, fruitful things, productive things. Because the way you're saying, as in those blind spots, dumb spots, sometimes you need people to tell you, if you actually do this, you'll most probably end up in a better position than you are now.
If you improve in this particular area.
Yes. So let's say maybe an example of finances. So I could tell you, I know you're prudent with your money, but I've also seen there's some good land for sale which would appreciate quite fast. So me giving you that idea that actually instead of just putting this money in the bank or in the SACCO, you could buy this piece of land, and in 3 years you can even dispose of it. So I'm keeping you accountable. I'm giving you sort of a good direction. You can choose to take the advice or not, but it's if you take the advice, it will be of quite a lot of benefit to you. So there's that accountability of I'm not protecting you from danger, but also directing you towards a particular good path.
Yeah, yeah. And I also firmly believe that, your accountability, as you said, there are those two perspectives of being, saved from danger.
Yes.
But also, for me, I also believe majority of the time your accountability are people who cheer you on. They cheer you on with your goals.
Yeah.
And it could be something as simple as, just a weight loss, journey or goal that you have.
Yes. Yeah.
It could be accountability for going to the gym. It could be accountability for setting up that company or, even financial goals.
Yeah.
So I think accountability also helps us in that positive way of ensuring, because then when you don't have accountability, you have no one to ask you questions. You have no one to keep you up to task.
Yes.
In terms of where are you with this goal of, if you're going to driving school, how far have you been registered? Because when you don't have anyone who's holding you accountable, you keep postponing and delaying.
And things will come up and you won't do it.
But and no one will call you out, no one will question you, no one will ask you. So I personally believe there's definitely that heavy need of just accountability for the purposes of also just realizing your goals and being able to achieve it. And when we're talking about like the dangers of accountability, and I know this will be one of the topics that we'll talk about one of these fine days, but maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I personally realize the majority of the time the people that I've met whom I think they are narcissists, majority of them don't have any accountability, or they're at least, even if they have, they don't like being accountable.
They are an authority to themselves. That's but not just an authority to themselves. They also know how to manipulate the image out there. So they know there's no one they are reporting to, but they also know how to create an image of themselves out there that is very good as opposed to what now their victim feels.
And that's a whole topic altogether on its own.
That one we should do that one as a topic by itself. That one, absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to having that conversation, because oh my.
And sorry to say, no, I'm not really sorry, but I mean controversially to say, maybe there are people who will think this is controversial. I've seen people use a lot of Bible verses to
don't even go there.
To try and manipulate the interpretation of the Bible, to try and manipulate other people. So there is there is quite some narcissism in churches or in spiritual circles.
It's true. It's true. And I'm definitely looking forward to having that conversation very, very soon.
You hit me up.
Definitely we'll have you. But also when we're talking about, just accountability, I realize part of the reason why many of us, especially in adulthood, we don't like accountability, part of it is because of pride and ego, we feel like we're in charge of our lives. I'm mature enough, I'm educated, I have a PhD, or I have a master's or whatever. So really you don't feel like, you feel like you're so learned, no one needs to question your life. And let me just put in this spanner in the works. Majority of the time as women, we're normally told, ladies, be careful. Do not marry a man who is not accountable
to anyone.
So can you talk about men and accountability?
I will tell you something. Men and accountability is like oil and water. Because the basic tenet of a man is to be independent. It's to be the man. It's to be
the lion in the jungle.
The lion in the jungle. The one who says, the ego.
The one who roars and no one questions.
The first one in traffic. The one who the door gets opened for. The one who stands in front addressing everyone. The kiongozi.
The head.
The one with the biggest car. I mean, the list could go on forever. It goes to infinity. Because every man wants to be the one in charge, the one in control. So now, coming to tell, because accountability is vulnerability. It's putting yourself in a position where you're opening your life up for scrutiny. So those two,
Oil and water.
oil and water. So here you are trying to tell a man you need to be accountable to someone. Like why? Why do you think I can't make good decisions by myself? And so because of that, that's why you'll find there are very many men who are unteachable.
Yeah.
Because we are an authority to ourselves. We don't like being told. Actually, that's why I say even in relationships, to get a man to do something you want, it's easier to motivate him than to instruct him. Because if you instruct him, then he'll be like, who are you to tell me what to do? Like it's another way if we have dirty dishes in the sink and I know they are dirty. See, I'm an adult of sound mind.
Yeah.
See, I've seen them.
Yeah.
See, I know they need to be washed. So why are you telling me to wash them?
Okay, they will wash themselves clearly.
No, see, but I will wash them at one point in this lifetime.
5 days later.
In this lifetime.
5 days
Zitaoshwa
later.
tu, eh? So there is that aspect of men and their ego and how we are created with our high risk, high adrenaline, high quotient of as in just being in front or being the ones to make decision or high span of control. We tend to find it very hard to open up our lives for scrutiny. That's why it's a challenge. It is a challenge. But now that's now where I was coming to that point of now as an adult or just as a man, making that decision, conscious decision, planned decision that I am going to open up my life for scrutiny. I'm going to make myself vulnerable to another person. It's a very big and hard decision. And it does not just come at a whim, as in it's something that has to be cultivated.
Yeah, intentionality.
Intentionality. Yes. And you see, with anything that requires vulnerability, if you try and it backfires,
you're done.
You climb up, you're like, go back to my shell.
Wow. And could that be the reason why many men, maybe they've tried before and I don't know, in one way or another, maybe they've been injured?
It starts from childhood, doesn't even with father issues, where maybe you're not doing well in school. You know where the problem is, but when you get home, whoever you're supposed to open up to and tell them what the problem is, unakutwa kwa mlango. As in, even before you get in, there's someone already waiting for you with a kiboko, with a cane, like, why are your results like this? So you learn not to ever express yourself, or you learn that the people who you think you could be vulnerable to expect, different of you.
Yeah.
And I mean, even those statements of, but you are a man, why are you crying? You're a man, you should not be getting hurt. And I mean, you can see the classical examples of the issues we've had with men who've been rejected and how they've reacted. Because they were never given that space to be vulnerable and say, that girl rejected me, I'm feeling so angry. Because even to fellow
like
men,
you're supposed to man up, rudi
yes,
soko.
Man up, hizi ni nini unatusho.
Oga na urudi soko.
Yes. But you see, even as fellow men, as peers, there's a way we can create a space for a man to open up without making him feel like he's less of a man. But we were not taught that. We were not taught how to do that. We never saw older men even do that for younger men.
True.
But you'll notice the fathers who give their sons that space to just be vulnerable. Like, tell me what's the problem. Not why have you low grades. As in, low grades are as a byproduct of something else. What's this something else that is bothering you? That is eating at your heart or head or mind and things like that. They tend to be more trusting, more accountable. They tend to be more in tune with the system that works best, as opposed to someone who was never given that opportunity. And then this now rolls into relationships. So men get into relationships, then because I mean, they are always on alert about being keleleshwad, being asked why they've not done stuff. They tend to cut corners. They would rather not tell you the truth because they don't want you to blow up. They would rather just hold back because they were not taught vulnerability, which leads to accountability.
Yeah.
Because if they had, they would come and tell you, by the way, I know I was supposed to take you out for a date. The truth is, I forgot. And that does not mean I don't love you. But if you know the moment you say you forgot, you will be, as in it will just become a mess. You're like, okay, let me just look for an extremely, a reason, like a lie. Let me create a lie. So they'll come and tell you, oh, we had an emergency at work, or there's someone who got sick, so we had to rush them, you know, that sort of thing.
1,000,001 excuses.
Yes. Of which
And
eventually
women
you
have
can,
ninth
you will know it's an excuse.
So ninth instinct will tell us, you are a liar.
Yeah,
you know?
you'll like, this story is not adding up.
It's not.
Because after 3 months, you'll ask him about the colleague who was sick. Like, which colleague? There was a colleague of mine who was sick.
And apparently the same men are terrible at lying, because you'll always be caught somewhere down the road.
Yes. So I believe it starts from a very young age.
Yeah.
But irrespective and irregardless. Kenyan proverb. Irregardless.
Yeah.
We, as an adult, are noticing that and knowing what is good for you in terms of being vulnerable to other adults. Now that's what I was saying. Now you start making a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And I can tell you it's not easy. It's scary. It's very, as in you feel emasculated, sort of, as a man, going to open up to another person about, some challenges or some issues that you would want to be kept accountable about. But sometimes what has to be done, scared.
Yeah.
Yes, but that being created for an environment where you can actually do that would make it way easier. Way easier. Because even, again...
like a safe space.
Like a safe actually, what men are looking for is a safe space. To be themselves in their stupidity, because the world thinks how men think and behave has a big aspect of stupidity, right? Because you'll hear women asking, but kwani angefikiria hii si ni kitu ya kutumia akili? You know? And you are there thinking, no, that guy thought, but for him, he made this decision because he knows it will come to this outcome.
Yeah.
It's because it's how we are created. We are created as high risk, less detailed. So I'll come to the house and I will throw my shoes all over. It's not because I want to. Actually, it's because my mind is not even there. And I mean, what's the consequence of one shoe being there and the other one there? Haitabomoa nyumba.
Oh my. Let me not even comment on that.
You see.
Let me not comment on that, because that drives women crazy.
I know. And because you see, for women, it's like folders are open. Like the shoes need to be together, dusted,
and,
and put
common
there.
Sense, you know? Yeah, your socks, you know
exactly.
where it ought to be. Why leave it at the door?
Because for a man, the mind is not at the socks. The mind is somewhere totally different. Yeah. And this is a maintenance issue. It's not the main issue. The main issue is their food.
I guess that's why they say in marriage, don't sweat the small stuff.
Please don't.
Because you get you will either be fighting about socks and shoes, rather than building the marriage.
Yes, and you see now for women, all those things are two folders open, like it's in a computer folder. Yeah. So until that issue is resolved, that socks is put where it's supposed to be, that folder is still running.
Mentally it's an issue. Yes. And I've told you like 10 times.
Yes. Yeah. So there's that space of creating a safe space for a man to be themselves, but inside of that space also now creating structure for them now to start learning accountability. So it's first creating that safe space, and most of the time
that is now accountability, like let's say in a marriage setup or just amongst your friends, like maybe your brother, sister, or
so across from family, friends and relationships.
Okay.
I believe in any relation that you're dealing with a man, even corporate, first create the safe space where the man knows, you can make a mistake. You can, we don't have a problem with your mistake. Just, what did you do? Okay, you did this. Okay. Now sit down. Let's, because accountability comes from the word accounting. Accounting is, I spent 100 shillings on this, 200. It's going through step by step on what has happened. So creating that accountability is, so what has happened, or what is the risk? Let's take account of this risk. There's this and this and this and this. So how can we deal with this? So that you're addressing, it sounds like cliche, but it's true. You're addressing the problem and not the person. You're not labeling the person the problem. Because the more you label the person using the name of the problem, the more even psychologically the person becomes the problem.
Yeah.
So, and people tend to embrace the identities they're given.
Yeah.
Ukiambia mtu na unakuanga na ufala, wewe bwana anakuanga na ufala.
After some time.
Like anaanza kubehave tu na ufala.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you start sort of believing what other. Because I mean, if the first person calls you a donkey and the second person calls you a donkey, by the third person,
you believe you're a donkey.
Start braying. What does a donkey do? It's braying.
Yeah.
Neighing. Start neighing. Oh, neighing is a horse.
Neighing is a horse.
So donkeys braying.
We need to confirm.
Clearly, we need to go to the farm. Yes. So that's how I believe we need to approach it when it comes to accountability. And I know I'm speaking about men because women tend to be a little bit more open.
Yeah, as we have chamas, we have women's
sleepovers,
we have sleepovers,
pajama parties,
ladies ministry. We have literally so many circles. Your girlfriends, you have girls trip. Like we have so many pockets of opening up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even just calls and to cry. I mean, as in, can I call to cry?
Yeah.
The women tend to be a little bit more open, even in terms of how they are feeling,
the emotions.
Yes, and in as much as there are women who, in as much as they have that, they will still go ahead and make a wrong decision. But it's not as bad as for men, because for men, they will show you, I'm going this way.
Yeah.
A woman will tell you, it's okay, you're my friend, you're keeping me accountable, you've told me this, I still love him.
Yeah, I still love him. Yeah, or you'll be like, I've had you.
Yes,
but literally,
I've had you.
Yeah, you can never advise a woman in love.
Yes, that's clearly. Yes.
That's a fact. And I think what I'm getting from just what you shared is that if you're going to change the narrative in terms of just accountability and the space for men and accountability, there's that place of a lot of intentionality and making that conscious decision to open up your life, to be vulnerable to other people, but also, as communities around us, creating those safe spaces for men to be able to feel comfortable, to open up to you and to be vulnerable, because it's not something that occurs naturally. But then also I think I love what you shared about like starting it early, with as we're raising boys, as we're raising children, so that we begin allowing them to be vulnerable from a young age, so that by the time they're becoming adults, it's not something that is absolutely foreign to them. It's something that they've been accustomed to from a young age. And I think if we went that direction, then I think that thing wouldn't be so much of a struggle for men, especially African men. They say African men and the ego.
And you see now African men actually, and that's why I keep going back to older men. Older men, open up your lives. Tell us the mistakes you made and how you worked them out. That way, as in, younger men will be able to see, okay, so this is common. What I'm feeling is not abnormal. Because sometimes when you feel like whatever you're going through is abnormal, you clam up, you hide, you keep quiet about it. Yet it could easily be a common thing that has a solution. So by opening up their lives, as in it's possible, it's even easier for someone to come up and say, by the way, I'm actually struggling with that. Could I walk with you through this journey? Because I would want to get out of it the way you did, or I would want to manage it the way you did, stuff like that. And and then I know that works even for me personally, as a personal example. So the church I go to, the bishop is called Kitoto, and one day he said he's very outgoing. Then his wife is very, conservative. So what they would do is, after church, he would be there greeting everyone for like 1 hour. She's there, and after in church, for some strange reason, it's always hot. Baking.
And you're hungry.
And you're like, I mean, it's time. And that was exactly the same thing I was going through. because me, I can speak to 300 people after church, as in I will greet everyone. And my wife is like,
Total
as in,
opposite.
I really
In the
need,
car
yes,
waiting.
in the car waiting, baking in the sun.
Yeah.
And I think now hearing someone else who has gone through that, I think it gave me that motivation even to open up to my wife and talk about it, like, as in, okay, so now I understand these different dynamics.
Yeah.
I will reduce my 300 to maybe just 30. Or I'll just reduce it to hi, what's up here? Moving on. So that I don't have to keep you. Yeah, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I keep feeling there's that point of older. And older, I don't mean old. I mean old as in as long as you have a life and there is someone younger there looking at you.
Yeah.
Open up your like now I have a son. Sometimes he gets frustrated by maybe older kids bullying him in the playing field, and I open up my, like, even me, I grew up a bit smaller, and this is what I used to do when I feel kids are. So when he is going out, he feels, okay, my dad went through this. I know how to handle this situation.
Yeah.
You can see that teachability in them, and they're like, okay, this is not weird. I'm not a weird kid. So that's why that's what I mean by old, as in anyone who has someone younger than them who looks up to them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that was such an important point. As we proceed on with this conversation, I think we've talked a lot, we've mentioned a lot about vulnerability.
Yes.
And I want us to talk about vulnerability and transparency in regards to accountability, because those are two words that appear a lot when you're talking about accountability in your personal life.
Yeah. One is proactive, the other one is passive.
Yes.
So vulnerability is the passive one. Vulnerability is the ability to open up, but more, it's like more of if I ask you.
When you're probed.
Yes. Kitambo Facebook, there used to be when you're poked.
Yeah, the poking.
Yes. So if you're not poked or if you're not probed, you might not pursue it.
You may withhold certain information.
Yes. But now transparency is putting structures where it's you actively, proactively who comes and says, this is me, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is what I'm going through. This is the decisions I'm making. Which now that one is the more productive accountability.
Yes, because I think for beneficial accountability, those two have to be in place, in terms of you have to be, both vulnerable, whereby, the person that you're accountable to, you allow them to ask you questions, but at the same time, you being willing to open up about your life, even without being asked questions, because you need those systems in place. You need somebody to hold you accountable, or to keep you in check, rather. Because I think, I think as we pursue just that whole space of accountability, I think it's very important for us to realize that those two have to be in place for the accountability to be effective and beneficial.
Yes, and it sort of even moves through, it's like you start at the vulnerability stage first, as in where you open up yourself to scrutiny. And by the time you're getting someone to keep you accountable, or you're giving someone that permission, because accountability has to be given. It's you allow someone to keep you
give them the
accountable.
right. Because
you give them the right.
I think the next question I was going to ask is, you can also close that door of accountability.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think now that next question was, what happens when the person that you're looking up to as your accountability partner, or, people that hold you accountable, don't really live up to the standards.
Yeah.
Because now what happens in such a scenario?
And you see, it's standards and very many other things, including because you could have opened up your life to them because you felt they, as you're saying, meet a certain standard, meet a certain bare minimum, or a certain sort of values that you also hold dear. So they are able to point out things in your life, which, because you're on the same aspiration. But also, remember, people are dynamic, people change. So maybe that person had conviction about something, and then it gets to a point, then they're like, I've changed my mind.
Yeah, their perception changed on
Yes.
a certain matter or issue.
Yes. So
Because we've even seen people who this person was even like a pastor or spiritual person, and then next minute they become an atheist. And then what happens? And they were your accountability
exactly
partner,
yes
or the person that you are looking up to for accountability.
yes yeah. So because people's lives change, people's perceptions change. So that's one where you would have now to start making a different decision concerning them keeping you accountable. Two, people's energy fade. Their values could still be where they are at, but they have maybe something personal. They're going through something personal, which has drained them of all the energy to keep someone else accountable. And that example you always give of when you're flying, you're told, put the mask on yourself first,
then your child.
On your child.
Yeah, in case of emergency.
Yeah, so it naturally goes to say that even for the people who are trying to keep you accountable, when they get to a point where they need to use all their energy on saving themselves, you sort of have to let them do that. Yeah. As in, give them the space, the right to withdraw that that accountability aspect of it, and maybe look for someone else. It could be different things. Maybe people have moved far from you, so they are not able to keep you accountable. So there are numerous reasons why accountability partnership could
come to an end.
Yeah. Obviously, the most disturbing one is usually now that one where values change, convictions change.
Yeah, I think that there's place for value, but also are you able to retain my issues? If I open up to you,
the other one.
If I open up to you, are you able? Do I feel the whole place of a safe space? Yes. Are you genuinely a safe space? I'll go hear my stories out there.
Actually, I don't know how that even slipped my mind. I know that one is one of the, because I know I've gone through that. Yeah. Where you talk to someone, then someone else comes and tells you, Kwani, what are you guys going through, or what are you going through? And I remember this happened, I think, when I was in university. So then someone goes, what's happening in your university? I heard people are doing like, no, I know the person I told this story. This was at a very personal level.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it was shared in a meeting or shared in a fellowship or just as a prayer request or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that is one of the biggest demotivators of accountability, as in, because by the time someone is giving you their information or opening up their hearts and minds to you, unless they've expressly told you that you can share this information with someone else, it's private information.
Yeah.
It is private information. So yes, that...
Or you get to hear your stories in podcasts.
Yes, or in podcasts.
Let's call this person A.
Say, for example.
Person A. I had this one friend of mine. They're just there unveiling all your stories.
Yes. And I mean, human nature, we get very curious, and we itch to give stories that we've heard.
Yeah, but I would rather that, honestly. Like, conceal, don't give out my name. If you're going to do that,
just say it, person A, person X.
Twist that story, but let it not be so obvious that you're talking about me. Because I think now that's where a lot of people get so much hurt, and they decide to close off their lives completely from wanting any accountability.
And I can tell you there are very many people who work in organizations where there are always people talking about other people using specific names. Like I would come and say, Trisha is going through this, and as in people have gotten to that level of lack of even sensitivity to what someone else told you, and that person is your friend. So, but someone will come and say, my friend Trisha is going through this and this, or told me this and this and this. And like, well, that's private information between the two of you.
Yeah.
Or by the time she was opening that up to you, she meant for it to be very private. So I would say that's one of the biggest reasons people sort of slow down on accountability.
Yeah. But I think on that, maybe I'd say as part of, instead of closing off your life completely from accountability, there's that conversation we had about just being able to have difficult conversations.
Yes.
And I think now that's where now that comes to play, because now if I give you my information, you realize that sometimes the person like they didn't either treat it, they didn't think that the issue was such a heavy private matter, and that's why maybe they opened up about it, and they didn't do it really to hurt you. So I think sometimes I feel like we never really go back to open up, and have those conversations of, hey, I had this story, you mentioned about this and that concerning me, that I information that it's only you that I shared with, and I don't appreciate it, or even just trying to figure out like honestly, what was that? So majority of the time what we end up doing is we cut off that person, we cut off the whole space of accountability, and we're like, I'm never ever going to open up to anyone. But
and you see the way now we're saying that thing of human beings being dynamic, is just realizing that so when this doesn't work, if you buy a product in a supermarket and it's bad, do you close the whole supermarket, or do you take back the product and say, this is bad? Can I get either a replacement, or can I change the brand? That sort of thing. So you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater just because of one example. And so it's because it's the same thing we'd say Nairobi is a bad city because you got mugged. I mean, I've gotten mugged in Nairobi, but I also have experienced a lot of good stuff in Nairobi. So there's a part where you say there is danger in Nairobi, but for the most part, it's a good thing. So the same thing with accountability. So this person did this, but accountability is not the problem. The person is the problem. So what I would change is the person. Yes. And as you're saying, having difficult conversations, even with the people, because they're also human. For them, it could be something easy, as in it's not a big deal. But to you, it's a big deal that they opened up to someone else about, or that their values or their convictions are starting to change. So have that difficult conversation with them. And you'd be surprised, even now that one, the aspect of going to ask someone to keep you accountable is actually a hard conversation for a number of people.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. Because it touches on your ego.
Yes.
Yeah, it touches on your ego.
Yeah, and for a man, I mean, I well, talking about myself, as in even just the thought of, I'm going to sit down with a guy and tell him, so now, I would want you to... that's
the accountability person.
Yes. It's easier to tell you, just keep me accountable, as in on things like money and stuff like that. It's easier. But on behavior and conviction, that is hard.
Behavior, conviction, and just your personal life.
Yes, it's very hard. So
do you have an accountability partner?
Yes, there are some people here and there have asked to check me.
Okay. You have people around you who can call you out, and
Yes, but you see now the other thing is, even in as much as I'm saying they're there, the time, the proximity to them, because now the way my life is set up currently, I'm either at home or at work, or doing something. So unless they are either at home with me or at work with me, then it becomes very hard to keep up. So sometimes life gets to that point where it's so busy. Those relationships start not becoming as effective as they would have been if. But also now that's where, as you are saying, this is a very intentional thing. It's either you do weekly calls or catch-ups, or if possible, meetings and stuff like that. But it's a lot of hard work. And I need to confess, I know, as in I'm even in a boys club where we haven't met for so long, more than a year now. We talk, we have our WhatsApp group, but it's not the same as sitting down and asking you your accountability questions. There's some accountability questions. I can't remember who came up with them, but I had them with the navigators, where as a man you asked a number of questions, including, have you been with a woman who is not your wife, or your nini. And then the last question is usually, have you just lied to me? And the guys I saw with that, they would meet, I think, every fortnightly. And they would start with those questions. So, I mean, you can decide to lie.
And that, I mean, the whole space of accountability is tough. I mean, no one, it's not enjoyable.
It's not.
It's not really an enjoyable process.
No, it's not.
You know, because now you almost feel, it takes you back to that place of being a child, talking to, you know, like your parents.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really where it takes you
Yeah.
back to. And none of us ever wants to be in that space where you're an adult being, you know, asked questions like a child. No one likes it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And men can be brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, I know as in when I was a bit younger, we had a group which was quite brutal with accountability. We used to call it panel beating.
Hey.
So whoever is being panel beaten would be put in the middle of the circle.
Hot seat. Yeah.
Okay? And if you've done something of ufala, either asuguliwa ngoto.
Hey, that's brutal. Ooh, yeah.
No, but it helped, as in, because now you'd be asked hard questions, and there's no stammering, as in just tell us. I mean,
yeah,
we are.
But it's a safe space. I think for me that holds. I think knowing that this person has the best interest,
Yes.
has my best interest at heart, is what really matters. Because then, if you're opening up to somebody who you're not certain on whether they have best interest at heart, you know, then what's the point? You know, it beats the whole purpose.
Yeah.
And
I feel like now the way I was saying for men, if you give them a safe space, they would easily talk.
Yeah,
they would easily talk, because I've seen now where it's a bit strict. People climb up and they just wait for someone else to talk and give instructions. Where they feel they can talk, as in, it's like it. I would say it sounds like making the issue light. Because if someone else had it, like, I say, hey, how are you guys making this issue light? It's not light. But you'd actually find someone talking more. Like when it comes to men and girls. When it's very serious, men tend not to want to talk about it. But when we make fun about it, like, hey, checking out them, hey, atakupeleka mbaya. Like, hey, lakini, you know, as in, so you'd find a guy feeling more impetus to talk about it than when it's my son.
Too serious.
I saw you with a certain girl. Who is she? Yes.
All right. So as we land this conversation, the final question is, where do I start from for someone perhaps who wants to set up an accountability system? Like they've never perhaps in the past ever had any accountability, and that is both for men and women as well. But, you know, how do you start? Where do you begin from? If you, from this conversation from today, you're like, hey, me, I've never had an accountability ever in my life. And I've made a mess of my life. But now from this conversation, I want to set up an accountability system in my life. Where do they start from?
I would say start by taking account of your life. And knowing exactly where you'd need someone else to help you navigate life. Remember, so because once you're taking account of your life, it will be a bit easier to know what aspects you want to open up, to be vulnerable about. Because it could be that you don't have any problems with relations. Actually, your wisdom is 100%. But when it comes to money, so when in that essence, when you're searching for an accountability partner, or someone to keep you accountable, let me stop using the word partner. It has a different connotation, as in for men, like partner. No, I don't want.
You don't want any partner.
Yes. For someone to just keep you accountable, or for you to be accountable too, you'd want also the person will address the particular issues that maybe you're struggling with, or you see are areas of risk in your life. So you first start by taking account of your own life and seeing which things these are. Two, I believe the best way to create accountability or to get people is by creating relationships, friendships. Because you're not paying this person to keep you accountable.
It's not a therapy session.
It's not a therapy session. So you have to create it as a relationship. And it is
a therapy in a way, but it's not like a paid.
It's not paid. Yes, it's not billed to anyone. And I would say just creating the courage to approach someone and talk about it, as in just, as in be clear. I just like the way we were saying about hard conversations, that this is how I'm feeling. These are the facts. And then now you have the tact on this is you are here, I've called you, or I wanted to meet you so that I can ask you if you can help me with this and this and this. Because I mean, anything you want, there's always someone who is willing to sit down and listen to how they could help. That one I know for sure.
They always say when the student is ready,
the master will be there.
The teacher always shows up for sure.
Yes. And remember, it's you who wants to be kept accountable. It's not the person to look for you. It's like mentor-mentee, as in it's a mentee to look for the mentor at any given point. So it's as simple as first knowing what you want, to identifying the person who has what you want, and 3, meeting this person and asking them for their help. Also, it could be indefinite, or it could be for a period of time. Because sometimes we want to have accountability about something for a period of time. I know sometimes we assume accountability is forever.
It's more of building a relationship.
Yes.
But it's not in all cases.
Yeah, because you can still remain friends even after that, but you want them to walk with you through a particular thing. And I think when we break it down that way, it becomes less scary for most people, that you can actually ask for accountability for a particular period. Either you're transitioning a job, you're looking for a job, you're getting to a relationship, you're about to get into a marriage, or you're getting your first kid, you're getting into a business that's new to you, you're going through a mental issue like depression, you want someone to walk with you through that. So if we look at it that way, if by the end of that you still want to maintain that accountability, much obliged, very good. If you feel okay after this, then we can now switch to maybe friendship, as in just now become normal buddies. Very well. As long as you have some sort of covering, and if after this one this ends, you can still have someone else to keep you accountable on something different, or maybe now generally. Yes. So it's I would say for people not to beat yourself too hard in terms of looking for this wholesome person. You can actually get someone who is an expert or who is very good.
And I mean, accountability, I think it's in different areas. So there could be like multiple accountability people that you are accountable to. It doesn't necessarily have to be one person.
Yes. Actually, yes. There's that multiplicity of the people whom you keep. I mean, even as we are right now, for those who are working, you are accountable to your supervisor. For those who subscribe to religious institutions, you're accountable to either a pastor or whoever is in charge of that. At home, if even in the extended family, people tend to become accountable to one particular member of either grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, stuff like that. So in our own normal life, there are aspects where we are accountable to people. So there's that aspect of knowing all these people whom you're accountable to, and doing right by what they need you to do. And then also now creating those now, it's like voluntary looking for an accountability person to keep you accountable.
The conscious decision.
Intentionality.
And I think that's usually
to become accountable.
Particularly for personal development. If you're going to grow and outgrow some things and become better as as you keep evolving, then accountability is key and critical.
And as you've put it, it's like guardrails, as in sometimes in life we move too fast, and if we made a mistake we would roll over the cliff. But these people are there,
or moving too slow
and you need a push,
a booster.
So I think it's also approaching accountability not in the prefect student type of thing, or a parent-child type of relationship, but rather even two people working together towards the same direction, or someone more experienced holding your hand to walk you through particular areas, helping you to navigate. Like we usually say, or rather I've seen in documentaries where people are walking through a minefield. There's a person who knows where the person with the machine. So it's always said, put your foot wherever their foot was. Don't step outside of where. So if they stepped here, so they're usually like 2 steps ahead. Make sure that's the exact spot where you step on, because that is the place where they've checked that there are no bombs. If you step even an inch off, you could easily trigger a bomb. So it's something similar. It's someone who's been there before, who knows the steps that need to be taken, and you're there, you stepping on the same places where they stepped on, and helping you to navigate through life.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. What a great conversation that has been. And that brings us to the end of today's episode, just about accountability, particularly once again in your adulthood years, and just the importance of accountability. And, just to highlight some of the key things that we've talked about today, when it comes to accountability, just that place of ensuring that it's a safe space to begin with, that the person that you are accountable to, are they a safe space? But also for men and women, just older, if you're older, working with somebody else who's younger and showing them, the path, the mistakes that you've made, and just encouraging them, cheering them on, so that at the end of the day, they can be more successful than you've been. Because I think, a good friend of mine normally says, legacy, is not what you leave behind, but who you leave behind. So when we open our lives to, have other younger people to work with, then, we are creating a legacy for ourselves. But I do hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. Let us know about your thoughts in the comment section, just about accountability. Do you have accountability people that, hold you accountable? Are you open to accountability? What are your thoughts about accountability, in the space of just men and also women being accountable? Would love to hear your thoughts. But thank you so much. Make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you like, make sure that you share this podcast to everyone around you as you continue growing, as we continue learning. But until next time, it is a goodbye.